Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our wrestling podcast. So, without further ado, the following podcast is scheduled for one fall, and today's topic, the legacy of Owen Hart.
An opportunist with Owen Hart now. Let's see what Austin can do with Eamon. No. How about that? Tombstone piledriver. Shades of the Undertaker. Austin dropped right on his hand. And how much more punishment can Austin get?
Welcome to the O.W.P. This is our wrestling podcast. This is Dave along with Jess.
Hi.
Yeah, and Cuz.
Good to be here, bud.
Yeah, go fuck yourself. Bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. And now on for our topic today, we are exploring the legacy of Owen Hart, guys. As always, you can reach us via Instagram at O.W.P 2019, SoundCloud at Our Wrestling Podcast, YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, or you can do the easy thing, download WrestlePost at no charge to you and join us along with other great podcasts of the day. So, guys, you know, I got to tell you, we just came off our Stone Cold podcast. I know we've been laying some things down in between here and there. I just want to talk about, what do you guys feel about the Stone Cold legacy before we jump into Owen Hart? How do you guys feel about it? You feel good? You feel like, not getting what we want? How do you feel about it?
I think our legacy episodes actually have been doing the best. Before we named them the legacy episodes, we did the Hogan versus Flair, and that just like on both SoundCloud and YouTube, it just spiked huge and people loved it. Probably because of the names, but at the same time, like we kind of were like, okay, like people like the focused like topics, you know, like, so we did Macho Man. Macho Man did okay, and I don't mean to shit on him. We split him into two parts, which is probably a mistake on our part. Part one did
move on, bro.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said you just learn and you move on. We shouldn't have done that. I agree with you. Yeah.
Part one did good. Part two was WCW, and like even though it was during the WCW hot period, it just didn't. When people hear WCW because it's out of business now, they're just like, I don't care. And let's face it, like WCW went out of business in 2001. Yeah. It's like, that's a long time. That's a long time. So most wrestling fans now are like, what's that? That's something that we hear about vaguely, you know? So it's something, didn't Eric Bischoff create that or something? He started that. Like, no, I mean, seriously, most people probably think that dumb shit. So like, that's, So Macho Man did okay. So we were like, okay. So when we decided to do the next legacy, which we all agreed on Stone Cold before, obviously way before, we just said we're going to do it one part, and it ended up being like 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I'm telling you right now, it's trending to be probably one of our most listened to episode. Right now, it's in the top 5. I think when it's all done, it'll be number 3, number 2. It might take number 1, but that's going to be hard to do. But it's on its way. So people are responding to Stone Cold. And listening back to that episode, I've listened to it like 3 times. We did a very good job. A very good job. And, it's hard to cover everything. Like I said at the end of that episode, we didn't really cover in detail the Corvette or the Zamboni or the beer truck. But I think we did a really good job of just covering his career, without covering people like certain landmarks talked about, this happened and this happened. But we were just really kind of covering the stretch of Steve Austin, not even Stone Cold, of Steve Austin. And I think we stuck loyal to that, and we did really well. And it's a very good episode. I really like it a lot, and a lot of people are responding well to it. And it's good. I think all 3 of us got our feelings across about what we feel about him, Stone Cold, or Steve Austin, I should say, as a wrestler. And it's a really good episode, so I look forward to this one.
There you go. So, anyway, let's move on. We're gonna get Owen Hart. I gotta tell you guys, when we're at the ages that we were at, when Owen Hart was where he was, Owen Hart was in a class all by himself. We'll get into it. I don't think people really understand what Owen Hart was, and probably what he left as a relevant imprint on professional wrestling. That high flying, that rivalry that you can create with relatives that wasn't really done until Owen really came into it. So let's just jump right in. The early years, well, shoot, he was born in May 7th, 1965 in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So those Canadians out there, you can give yourselves a whoop whoop right now. He was the youngest of 12 kids. That's right. Son of Helen and the famous Stu Hart. They were getting busy having lots of little babies running around. Apparently.
How did Stu have that much time? Jesus Christ.
Apparently, and how could
there's so many stories of him stretching people and doing all that stuff, and he ran his own promotion, Stampede Wrestling, and all that stuff. And
maybe it got him excited, bro.
He kept Helen just fucking. He kept her under the ring, and he's just like, between spots, I'm gonna fucking lay some seed. Like, I have no idea. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, there was the dungeon. That's the famous dungeon that everybody knows about. If you're any kind of wrestling fan, you know about the Stu Hart dungeon. And just to give you a quick recap before we get into real professional wrestling, Owen actually met his wife Martha during high school, of all things. So they were high school sweethearts. Just a small note there, because it's going to be important to what we talk about to the listeners, that you'll need to know who she was later in the podcast, to his legacy and why things are the way they are presently. So it is important. She holds a big value over Owen's life and Owen's legacy, quite frankly. So, but is there anything else you guys want to say about Martha or the family, the Hart family, before we get started into Owen's professional career in '83?
I don't want to say anything about Martha yet. I want to just say, it was a rich family. Like, Stu was a big deal in Canada, and the dungeon was a huge deal. Like, it was legendary, and he stretched so many people there. And he really stretched them in the sense of he taught them, you have to feel. Before you can do a fake sport, and I'm not saying he said those words, I'm saying this is me saying that. Before you do a fake sport, you have to learn the real holds first and feel the pain and feel the twisting and all that stuff. And then you can fake it, right? That's what wrestling is. It's fake. And I know people like to say that, but to understand how to professional wrestle, you have to know that it's fake and make it look real. So that's the art form. I prefer
predetermined, but go on.
Well, it is fake, but it is predetermined as well. I get what you're saying, but you have to.
They still feel it, bro.
You have to make it look like you're doing something to somebody. So, that's the acting or the fakeness that you have to portray. You have to make an armbar look real. But to understand how an armbar hurts you, Stu was like, "I'm gonna put you in a real fucking armbar first, and then you're going to feel all the tendons, rip and tear and stretch or whatever.
Sure.
And then when you learn that, you're going to be like, okay, so when I apply it, I got to learn how to show the audience where the bend is, where I'm pulling your arm up or your leg up or whatever, So that's the value in that. So people are like, that doesn't make any sense, because I've described the dungeon to many casual wrestling fans. They're like, wait a minute, if it's fake, why do you have to really stretch people? I'm like, because like anything else, you have to learn how it really works in order to show fakely how it really works.
And you know what? Just speaking of that, that's the reason why people don't get into it now as the casual fan as they did before, because all of that is left.
It's all flippies. It's all flippy duties.
Exactly.
Let's do some flips, and then
there is no more stretching. So we're going to go into '83. Owen started his wrestling career even when he was still at university. He was under a mask and calling himself, of all things, the British Bulldog, believe it or not, even though he was not British. And then as the Bronco Owen Hart, when he left university, he had a lack of success there. And then when it didn't really work out for him, he went back to his dad. He went back to Stu, and he trained under the Hart Dungeon and Stu's wrestling federation called Stampede Wrestling, as well as international work for Max Crabtree in '86. He teamed up with Ben Bassarab. He won the Stampede Tag titles all while earning the PWI's Rookie of the Year for 1986. I mean, that's pretty impressive. He's a really young guy at this point.
Dave, can I ask you a question?
What do you guys say about that? Yeah, ask me a question. Or, yeah.
Was he a good discus thrower? Is my question.
Oh my God.
I want to know.
I mean, he had the hair
because Cuz was really passionate about that at the Austin episode. So I want to know, did Owen do discus or track or stick his dick in a tailpipe or something? Give me something that
if you guys can't hear this is
that Cuz can fucking
hitting
random tidbit.
This is my forehead hitting the microphone right now.
Cuz needs to be stimulated by something totally retarded. So give me something that's very offensive. During the winter, did he shit down the chimney? Give me something. I need something from you. No? Okay, continue. I apologize.
The answer is no, Jess.
Good deal.
No. So, I mean, you know, but you think
I was
about
trying to help Cuz.
In 86, those Stampede Tech titles, I mean, that's a big deal, you know, and his career started out pretty promising, even though he was under his dad's federation. Do you guys have anything to add to that before we move on in 87?
No.
Good.
No, I don't.
I'm so fucking glad we're doing this right now. You fucking pricks. God.
I'm as interested in this as I was in Austin's Texas shit. So go on.
Okay, I'm moving forward. In 87, he ventured out even more. He actually wrestled for New Japan Pro Wrestling for several tours, wrestling Keiichi Yamada.
People like New Japan right now. That's crazy.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, all of a sudden, something you actually fucking care about. Okay. So, by the way, who was Keiichi Yamada? Do you know who the fuck that was, Jess?
It was Iron
be
Mike
real.
Sharp.
Be real about it.
It was Iron Mike Sharp in WWF.
No, it wasn't. Move on. Who was it? Last chance. Keiichi Yamada was Jushin Thunder Liger, which is pretty cool, by the way.
Okay.
All right.
He's retiring this year, isn't he?
He's on an actual retirement tour right now. It's very interesting. You talk about that, Jess. It's good timing. It's amazing how that works out. Oh, that's incredible. So, Jushin Liger, that's pretty cool stuff. He actually wrestled Jushin Liger before he was Jushin Liger. I think that's a really cool thing. I don't know if you guys give a shit.
That is cool. That is cool. I'm being dead serious. It is fucking interesting. It is. It shows how. Truth be told, it shows how far Owen does go back. Because a lot of people don't really think of Owen until he gets to. To be honest, I know you're going to get to the Blue Blazer shit, but I mean, people didn't know he was the Blue Blazer when he was the Blue Blazer. So it's really, honestly, I swear to you, it's interesting that he wrestled in Japan. A lot of people don't know about that. Owen was super world trained, before he even got to be the Blue Blazer. And that's really important, not just from the education he got from his dad, but he went to New Japan. And honestly, that was a big deal. You really learned different ways of wrestling and different ways of selling and doing offense and everything in New Japan. That legitly is I know I'm joking around with Dave, but that's legitly a big deal. Owen had a lot of education before he even became the Blue Blazer, which you didn't even know he was the Blue Blazer because he was under a mask originally. And he was so educated already. So I'm being serious.
No, you said it really well. So we're talking about.
But Cuz, seriously, play the clip of. I'm kidding. God damn it.
God damn it. And you know, and if you want to play a clip, play the clip. Any clip you want.
No, I'm kidding. There is no clip. That was my joke.
Shut the fuck up. I'm saying play the clip of Liger on his farewell tour. Find something. He's on it right now. It's pretty impressive.
Don't do anything. No.
You know, hey, by the way, do yourself a check. How old is Jushin Thunder Liger right now? Check it out. Let me know.
84 years old.
Yeah, okay, that's good. All right, so 88 to 89, we've got the WWF first signage. Owen actually gets signed by the Machine at the time, and instead is coming in as you guys. Are you guys done being fucking douchebags?
Sorry. Wait. So Owen came in where now?
He came into the WWF, and instead of coming in as Bret Hart's brother, they put him in a mask, and as Jess already said, because he likes to blow his wad, just like Cuz, as the Blue Blazer gimmick.
But wasn't he something before the Blue Blazer?
You tell me, dickhead.
No, I'm being serious. I swear to God. There's some on the network.
Not from the research I've seen. What did you see?
No, I don't remember the name.
You don't remember, but you would have fucking bring it up.
No, I'm not trying to dick you with this one. I was dicking you with the other shit, but this one I'm being serious. He was like, God, it was like him and Barry Horowitz were going around the horn, and they were opening the house show cards. And I swear to fuck, it might have been the Blue Blazer from the start, but I swear to you, like it was like the Blue Angel, or something like that.
It was all under that. It was something that mask gimmick. Yeah.
They had a mask on him, and they were changing the mask or whatever. And it was like the Blue Angel, and then they changed it to Blue Blazer. So I mean, I'm honestly being serious. Like I think they were just they debuted him like on house shows, right?
That's kind of the problem. Yeah, he had that superhero persona with the mask underneath because, quite frankly, at this time, this was the most impactful high flying wrestling you would ever see. This was the stuff that the Blue Blazer or the Blue Angel gimmick was doing was just out of this world. The stuff that he would do moonsaults just when he came into the ring.
Yeah,
and that was huge. Like, oh my god,
he would do that spot like now you see it like where somebody would go for a hip toss, he'd reverse it, but he would put his leg over the back of their neck and then flip backwards. You know what I mean? Like, can you envision that? And like I'd never seen that as a kid, so when I saw him on house shows, I was like, dude, this guy is like doing crazy flips and shit. Like he did amazing stuff.
Yeah, and that stuff this is where I'm trying to say, like, I know it sounds really weird, but Owen Hart, it probably paved the way for more high flyers to come in down the line. You didn't
even know it was him because originally they wanted to bring Owen in and they didn't want to make him connected with Brett. And so,
which is really weird in hindsight. Yeah. It's so weird that they wanted.
So Vince just wanted to put him under a mask and see if physically he could do what he wanted. And
he was in a mask before, quite frankly. When he was starting out. So
yeah. So I mean, it was like they didn't want to bring him in as like a Hart guy, so they brought him in as the Blue Angel / Blue Blazer, and they were figuring that out. But he would open these house show cards and he would do crazy shit. And like I would see a lot of that stuff on my big massive satellite dish. If you go back in our archives, you'll understand where I had that. And like it was really cool to see, especially like in '89 and shit like that. Like he was just doing crazy stuff. And I know Dave's going to progress forward, but.
By the way, Jess, he would get over but he just wouldn't get past that mid card status, right?
Right.
So
they didn't want him to be. They didn't want him to be. Yeah. So, but while he was doing the Blue Blazer stuff, first of all, he had his first WrestleMania match as the Blue Blazer at WrestleMania 5 against Kurt Hennig. Mm-hmm. And it was a pretty good match. It was like the best match on the card. Back then, WrestleManias were like kind of a one match card. So the main event of WrestleMania 5 was, every time I fucking do an episode with you guys, I have to reference Hulk. Because when we reference like this date, him and Savage were the main event of Mania 5. So, but the whole back here, the whole thing of Manias, it was kind of a one match card. They would use the main event to advertise that card. So Hulk and Savage were the draw of that card. On that card was the Blue Blazer versus Mr. Perfect, who had just kind of figured out his name of Mr. Perfect and was figuring everything out. I believe it was the first time he ever wore the singlet.
God, the amount of talent in that match is insane.
And I'm not saying it was like a match of the year candidate, but it kind of stole the show because Owen and Hennig were doing crazy shit in there. So go back and watch WrestleMania 5, the Blue Blazer versus Kurt Hennig, and like it's a really good match. Like it's shit you see it all the time now, but at that time you never saw the stuff that they were doing.
There was nothing like that at the time.
The counters and the moves, like you never saw that stuff or whatever. So he made an imprint in the sense, and nowadays a lot of people get, you see internet reports or the dirt sheets report like, oh, they only got 5 minutes, so the match was just so. Okay, let me tell you something right now.
Here you go.
We're going to get later in Owen's career. Right now, there's 2 5-minute matches that Owen Hart delivered in his career that I tell anybody who fucking bitches about only having 5 or 6 minutes on a pay-per-view or whatever to go watch. The first one is Saturday Night's Main Event from 1989. It was before Mania 5. Ted DiBiase versus the Blue Blazer.
Yeah.
Granted, I will give you that they cut it because Saturday Night Main Events, they cut the matches to how they wanted to fit because it was a pre-tape show. That match is 5 minutes, and go back and watch that match. It's fucking brilliant. They knew how much time they had. They might have been 6 or 7 minutes total, but they cut it down a little bit. But overall, they knew they only had a window between 5 to 7 or so minutes, and they fucking delivered. There's another match that's going to come up later as Dave progresses with the storyline. I'm not going to ruin it now. So for any young guy that's like, oh, I'm going to do it 5 minutes. 5 minutes? What am I supposed to do with that? fucking go to the network and go to Saturday Night's Main Event, the Saturday Night's Main Event before Mania 5, and watch DiBiase and the Blazer. And later in this episode, when Dave gets to it, I'll tell you the second Owen Hart match that you can fucking go to. So Owen Hart is the fucking prototype for 5-minute matches because he's that good. So guess what, talent who's stressing and bitching about 5 minutes is not a lot. It's fucking plenty of time. Learn your craft, learn how to wrestle, and go back and watch this, and you'll see.
We're trying to put clips in 30 seconds or less to try to get people to listen to what we're talking about. So 5 minutes is an incredible amount of time to get what you want to lay down. I mean, and Owen has proved that, you know.
I'll say that the tide of this match has turned tremendously. Razor needs to keep those aerial tactics going, but he better not get overconfident. DiBiase is a figure. 2 and a kick out. Barely by Ted DiBiase. Firing back in retaliation now. Big another man, Ted DiBiase set up for a ride off the ropes. Over the blue laser, right back at him. And catches the boot. What a power slam. He's got a hook. He got it.
So, you know, because of that, he never got past the mid-card status, and he left, quite frankly, which is kind of crazy. So from 89 to 91, Owen was kind of a journeyman, to say the least. He was wrestling for Stampede. He wrestled.
Didn't he have like a tryout in WCW, I think, too?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
In 91?
Yeah, he was Mexico where the actual Blazer was unmasked. And then he had less of a year stint at WCW, but they couldn't work out a contract for him in WCW at that realm in 91. So, and by the way, Owen also did not want to move his family to Atlanta. They were all based in Canada. So that basically brings a return to WWF. Do you guys have anything notable to say about the 3-year stint of the journeyman Owen for Stampede Mexico and WC?
No, I think it's a lot of what a lot of wrestlers are missing nowadays. You know, like there's no territories now. Yeah. So he went from Canada, he went to WWF under a mask, then he went to WCW, and he was just trying to learn his feet. It's education that he needed. He really did.
Yeah, and I think quite frankly, he wouldn't be the wrestler he was without all of this.
Because Brett was pretty much planted in like 85 in WWF, and Brett was just fucking Hart Foundation off to the races, you know, after that.
Yeah, I mean, he did Stampede with his dad for quite a long time, and then was basically pushed right into WWF with the Anvil. So
and they had an agreement. Vince would go to Stu for talent a lot.
Sure. But Owen was kind of like that handoff. Hell, we'll try to use him. We'll see what we do. But Brett's our guy, you know, and that was proven. But I think a lot was lost on Owen, and because of that, Owen became a better overall wrestler because of all the different ideals and techniques of all the federations he actually lived upon. Even if they were a short amount of time, I think Owen was kind of a sponge, you know, for all that type of. All that type of different styles. There's throw styles. There's styles where you want to get a little more snug, and then there's the hey, you got to cut that right promo. And I know Owen's always had a problem with that. I know people have a problem with Owen and his promo work, but he wasn't bad, you know. And he learned as he went. And I think Owen really absorbed as much as he possibly could because he didn't have the patent backing of the machine. They wanted Brett, and Brett was quite frankly he was the package that WWF was looking for. And Owen was just kind of like, oh, well, he's okay. And I think they missed out on that. And I think in the long run, because they did, Owen became better because he saw more opportunity and more advantages with different styles than Brett did. So they're completely different in so many ways. And I think it's because of Owen's journey that's why it's different. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but
I agree.
Yeah. So we're getting into the 1991 year. It's the WWF return. We're talking about the new foundation and high energy. It was a good time for Owen to return as his brother was getting into the singles division more heavily. Brett's moving on. So that kind of leaves Jim, the Anvil Neidhart, who's kind of a bruiser in there. Probably not the best talent, not a worker, more of a fighter. So that means that Jim needs someone to work with. And he was in need of a tag partner, and that forms what we call the new foundation. And they feuded with the Beverly Brothers. They beat the Orient Express at Royal Rumble 92. And when Neidhart left at this point, because, gosh, Jim had a ton of problems. That's a whole other story we can get into later on. Owen got a singles match at WrestleMania 7 against Skinner.
8.
Yeah, go ahead.
8.
Oh, is it 8? I'm sorry. My bad. That's the notes I have say 7. So, and then we have High Energy coming in after that point. This is formed with Owen. And who is it, Jess?
Coco Beware.
Another high flyer, such a high flyer that he had a parrot wherever he went. And, you know, High Energy did get on one pay-per-view at Survivor Series with that loss against the Head Shrinkers. You know, Head Shrinkers, you know, there's some storyline behind that too. We'll get into that eventually. The start of 93 had High Energy disappear. Basically, that didn't last too long. So Owen can once again start his singles career. And as a side note, in 93, Owen was being used in the USWA and actually won their world title there as a heel. There was
Lawler was came aboard in 93 WWF.
Exactly, and a lot of WWF talent was loaned out there. You know,
he was like the big guy in USWA, and he was like one of the owners and promoters of USWA.
But this is the key
traded
thing about
talent.
it. Yeah, they traded talent, but whenever that WWF talent went to them, they were all heels because who was the face, Jess?
USWA, Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, but when Lawler came to the WWF, he was the heel. It's kind of fun to think about that because you have to play to your fan base. And even though Vince was taking this, you know, national and even worldwide, you have to consider where you are to know who's going to be cheered. And I think they did this quite well. You know, Jerry Lawler knows what town he's in and knows what character he has to play, and I don't think people give Lawler enough credit for that. I know we're jumping a little off track there, but I think it's very interesting how if Owen went to his territory, Owen would be the heel, and he would totally understand that, and he would be able to totally adapt. That's something that doesn't happen anymore because they don't have to, because there's so much syndication, so much TV, so much social media that you don't really have to worry about it. But back in these days, it was still very territorial, in spite of what Vince was trying to do with the machine. So I think it's incredible that honestly, I think their job was harder. They had to know where they were to know what they were going to do. I don't know if anybody agrees or disagrees with that.
Well, I mean, like USW was in the pocket of WWE or WWF at the time.
Yeah.
So that's why. I mean, territories were dead, but Vince knew the value of keeping like a feeder promotion. Sure. Like to feed him talent or whatever. And he would put, you know, promote wrestlers that weren't really hitting in WWF, he would put down there to kind of group them more. So to go back to the, basically, the new foundation was supposed to be a mid-card tag team, and there was no plan to put the titles on them. And when Jim got fired, you know, Coco came in, and Vince just wanted to stretch that out because he wanted New Foundation to be like at least a year and a half long for house shows and all that stuff. And Owen was doing well. Again, all part of the learning curve of Owen Hart. It was really important to happen.
Hey, you know what, fat boys? That's right, you nasty boys. You know why they call us High Energy? It's because we're moving, we're grooving, and we're always going to the top. The Birdman and the Rocket. You want a piece of high energy? Come and find us. Tell them about it, Bird. High energy. That's what the world.
So yeah, I mean that's why you know, like Vince was doing. I think Vince really knew that. Obviously, he knew that it was Bret's brother, but Vince was trying to really figure out, okay, where can Owen fit? What can we do?
Sure. And Owen actually, like I said, he won that USWA title as a heel. And he suffered a knee injury. He had to actually step away until the fall of 93. But once he comes back, that takes us into our brother feud. I always laugh because we've listened to so many podcasts of like Vince talking about why do brothers fight? I'm like, well, you got to talk in order to fight. You don't talk to your brother, so go fuck yourself, you know? But anyway, it's like they're so estranged. Like, how could you even know how brothers work? But in this whole, and you can go back to several podcasts, guys, and find out the pitch on how this came down and why Bret chose Owen to be a part of this. But basically, Bret, Owen, Bruce, and Keith, they all appeared at Survivor Series, are scheduled to face Jerry Lawler and his team. And Lawler couldn't make it. If you want to find out why, you can check out our archives, but it's a big to do why Lawler couldn't be there. So Bret and Owen,
likes young girls. He likes young girls. Sorry, go ahead.
What are you doing here?
I'm ashamed. I'm so sorry.
Allegedly. So
He was
Brett
acquitted.
yeah, sure. Why not? Brett and
He
Owen
was.
actually crash into each other, and Owen's actually eliminated in this match.
Dave.
What?
He was acquitted. He did not touch young women.
I know. I'm saying it's allegedly, bro.
Even though it's been several accusations, he did not do it.
You don't have a conviction. I'm just saying. All right.
Even
But
though
Owen
Bill
is-
Cosby went to jail nowadays, he did not do it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people get away with this shit.
Even
now.
though there's a bunch of different stories of him doing it, he did not do it.
Look up
Am I talking lower than I should be? It's weird. I don't know why.
No, I can't.
I'm not trying to insinuate that he probably did it, but like,
What are
he
you
just
doing?
paid people off. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that is my point.
And threats were made. I know, and charges were.
I'm not
dropped,
saying that. I'm
stuff
just
was
saying
paid.
that he liked young women and sometimes they were underage. And then when he would get caught, he would pay them money. I am not saying that. What I'm
you go.
saying is that you should just kind of go on forward with what you're saying.
That's what we're doing.
I'm not
So-
saying that he did that.
Brett and Owen crashed into each other, and
Jerry
Owen was
Lawler
actually
is what we're
eliminated
talking about. We're
in
talking about
that
Jerry Lawler.
Survivor Series match. We're just going to talk over you till you shut the fuck up, and starts a heated discussion after the match with the actual parents trying to calm them down. And the next night, Owen begins to duplicate Brett's look. He challenges him to a match, but they seem to make up by the holidays. Isn't that sweet? When
that's fucking great.
Oh, we all got to make up for the fucking Christmas.
That's really great.
Come on.
Yeah. Even
That's
to
so
the
nice.
point where Brett would tag
Well, I'm just glad
Owen.
that they can make up because then Jerry Lawler on his side of it, like he could be acquitted of all those accusations and enjoy Christmas that year.
There,
Dave, I'm just trying to fucking like guide this podcast. Like I don't know why you're getting so
Okay.
mad at me right now.
I don't know why you're so upset.
Jerry
bro.
Lawler did not touch young women. Jesus.
Well, by the court.
Stop
documents,
bringing
that's
it up, bro. God. Amazing. Amazing.
true. So, Brett.
No
at this
one
point
pays
in the
women to be
holidays, Brett would actually end up tagging with Owen, trying to keep the peace, and even got a shot at the tag titles against the Quebecers. And that storyline takes us to Brett hurting his knee. Oh, hurt your
At
knee.
what event?
Oh, you
Royal
tell
Rumble.
me, sir.
Royal Rumble 1994.
I actually remember
Royal
being at your
Rumble,
house for that one.
1994.
I actually remember being at your house for that one because I remember that was.
I don't remember. Cuz was at my house so many times.
Oh,
Cuz a
and the
goddamn
fans care
spy.
about that?
No,
he's a
but
goddamn
the
spy.
memory of
Those
that.
6 listeners.
That's
care.
another.
Dave, we're trying to communicate about how he's my real cousin and how we connected when we were young.
I think
Thank you
you-
very much for not standing in the way of that.
I think you totally stated that over several episodes. But thank you. Yeah, that's great.
No, but what I wanted to say
in
about
case you
Owen,
guys didn't know, cousin Jess are actual.
But
cousins.
what is Jerry Lawler? Is he back in the promotion here, Jerry Lawler?
Not yet.
Okay. Why?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. It's not
what I
important.
wanted to say about Owen
don't
though,
know
that was
that.
another one of those moments where I was like, God, I fucking hate you because of what he did.
So we're at
Anyway,
Royal Rumble 94, Dave.
Not to lose on this.
Well, that's
The
not.
Royal number 4. So they made up, right?
good.
they made up for a
And
moment.
then
would
they
tag
said, you
against
know
the
what, we
Quebecers
are
for the tag
we
titles,
are a
right?
brotherhood, and we're going to challenge the Quebecers, which are very funny, by the way.
Yeah.
for
They're
the tag
great.
team
They're fucking
championship.
awesome. Yeah.
I knew this was tearing up the family, and I knew that Owen and I had to sit down and we had to resolve this thing, and that's exactly what we've done. And we are going to win the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team titles as a unit.
The rocket is going to be taken off, and I'm going to have my brother Brett there right behind me. And the Quebecers, we're coming after you. We're gunning for those World Tag Team Championships for the rocket.
And at Royal Rumble 94, Dave, I'm going to fucking take over right now.
You take
And I
it,
feel
bro.
great because one of the greatest promos ever happened. So they
no.
were building up the whole time. You kind of saw it coming that Owen was going to turn against Brett, and that was their deal. So at the Brett had a hurt knee coming into the match or whatever, and then the Quebecers exposed it. And they didn't lose, but they didn't win the tag titles. I do not remember how the Quebecers won. It was like DQ or some bullshit.
The match had to be stopped because of Brett's knee.
That's what I said. I said the match had to be stopped because of Brett's knee, and Jerry Lawler did not date younger
sure
women.
he did.
So, going with that notion, what happened after the match was Owen was pissed because Owen's like, because of you and your bullshit knee.
He lost his mind, bro.
Huh?
He lost his mind for sure.
Who? Jerry Lawler? Yeah, he was fucked up. He was really bad.
Yeah.
So, and he likes young women. So, he just gets acquitted. Dave, stop goading me if you don't like it. Anyway, So back to Jerry Lawler. When he first got into wrestling, we're not talking about Jerry Lawler, we're Owen. Okay, sorry. So in 1994 Royal Rumble, so the whole thing was like, so then Owen got pissed because the Quebecers won due to ref stoppage. And Bret had a hurt knee. So Owen got pissed and he was just like yelling at Bret after the match, going like, you cost me the tag titles. This is supposed to be our big deal. And he kicked Bret's leg and Bret fell. So that turned Owen heel instantly.
What did I tell you? That's right, Owen. That's right. You're right. He should have tagged you.
But I don't think Bret deserves this. Owen Hart appears to be giving his brother a tongue lashing.
But Owen is obviously right in being mad at his brother. One more time. Bret refused. Well, it's obvious to me that Owen Hart is finally... I think you've just seen a major change.
And so Owen leaves the ring, and now we know that Owen turned versus Bret. But the promo that Owen cuts, Owen gets to the back, and on the big screen out in the arena, they put Owen's interview up. So Bret's fucking down in the ring, the refs are tending to Bret, and Owen's cutting this promo, and it's a live promo. It's not scripted like it is nowadays. And so the nerves must have got to Owen. So he's cutting a promo. Bret, you've always held me back in life. Bret this, Bret that. And that's why I did this. And that's why I kicked your leg out of your leg. And like, it was total bad.
You're too damn selfish, and that's why you're sitting there with a bad leg, and that's why I kicked your leg out of your leg.
So that is super famous because this is Owen's like turning heel, and Vince is putting stock in Owen and making him a top heel, and he fucking like swallows his own tongue.
Vince, like, what the hell is that?
Great. It's great, but let me tell you. So they keep pushing Owen, but at the same time, that's how good Owen is in the ring.
Owen's amazing.
Is when you watch Owen in the ring, it's like poetry. It's like water, right? And
you can overlook it. You really can.
There's only one guy that can get away with this, and it's Owen Hart. Like, and if you go back, like the big fucking moment that he turns heel, he has to cut this vicious promo. And Bret, you've been holding me back my whole life. And Bret, this is why I did this. And Bret, that's why tonight we came in here in your bum knee. And Bret, that's why I kicked your leg out of your leg.
I think if this happened in today's era, there would be signs saying "kicking the leg out of your leg" the next night on Raw. I'm just saying it would have been great. They would have loved it, and they would have been able to expand on it. It would have been fucking hilarious.
So it's so fucking funny that like, and this follows Owen for a while because there's a lot of shit like this that like he just like fucking flubs, but it's part of his big career turn. It's part of what pushed him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's hilarious. So, and this basically started Owen's heel run, setting up the match at WrestleMania 10 against Bret. By the way, this is covered in our underrated WrestleMania moments.
Can I
please check it out?
Okay, let me calm down for a second, Dave. I gotta stop you. I gotta shut you the fuck up right here.
Whoa.
In any other fucking time period, this match with Bret at WrestleMania 10 would have stolen the show.
Yes.
These guys wrestled such a great match, WrestleMania 10. The only thing that it shows you how great that Michaels and Ramon were in the ladder match. Because this match with Bret and Owen was so good. It was so fucking on a different level than most people, especially for what the WWF audience had seen and what Vince pushed. And it shows you how the fuck do you have a pay-per-view that has two of the greatest matches ever in WrestleMania history on it. And they had it at Mania 10. And so when anybody ranks Mania 10 in their top 10 or top 15, and people are like, I don't get it. I'm like, really? You don't fucking get it?
You're dumb.
Bret versus Owen and Ramon versus Michaels in the ladder match. Those two matches alone, one of those would have carried an individual pay-per-view to great status. But they were on the same.
Bret winning the title.
They were on this fucking same pay-per-view. And like they opened WrestleMania 10 with Owen versus Bret. And if you have not, and you've just read, you know in your heart of hearts, if you've seen this match, you might have read it. A lot of dumb fans now, Dave's and Cuz, they fucking say they've seen shit and they haven't. Oh, I've totally seen that. No, you've probably read a lot of articles on that match, but have you really gone back and watched?
Have you really watched it?
Have you really watched Bret versus Owen for Mania 10? I would say the majority of people, you have not. So, of the 100 people or whatever that are listening to this podcast, go and fucking watch that match. You will not be disappointed. That match is fantastic. In any other card of that year, it would have been match of the year, match of the card, whatever. But because Ramon and Michaels was so great with the ladder match, that's the only reason why it was eclipsed. Like, can you imagine that? Like, that's how good Brett and Owen was so good. And it opened up the pay-per-view. They're so good. And Owen won.
Might be classified as
Owen won.
As their greatest, Jess, it might be classified as their greatest WrestleMania curtain jerker of all time. Like
I would say the only match that's ever rivaled it would be Triple H and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Right. But I don't even know. I don't even know if it was better. It was the only match that I could think of that could rival it.
And by storyline, Jess, it has no comparison because many people know. If you don't know, there was basically two matches going through. So no matter what, Brett had to wrestle two matches. He had to wrestle the winner of the Les Luger.
They had like a mini tournament. Like him and Luger both tied when they went over the rope at WrestleMania that year.
Exactly.
The winner of Royal Rumble. Sorry, Royal Rumble. The winner of the Royal Rumble got a shot at the World Champion at Mania. So Luger and Brett went over and tied. So they flipped a coin to set up for WrestleMania, and they did like a mini round robin tournament. So Luger won the coin toss, so he got to face Yokozuna in the middle of the pay-per-view. But to make it fair, so Brett had another match, they put Brett versus Owen on top of it.
Exactly.
So, and it was perfectly booked because Brett could lose, but it did not affect his match against Yokozuna later. So the winner of Yokozuna and Luger,
whoever the winner of that mid card title,
whoever won between Luger and Yokozuna at Mania 10 would face Brett in the main event.
And obviously Yokozuna beat Luger.
Yokozuna beat Luger, and they did some dumb shit. I don't even want to get into it because it was stupid and it was retarded.
Yeah, but
at the end of the match, Brett beats Yoko and wins the title the way he should have won it a year before. Again, different topic for a different pay-per-view. Then Owen comes out because Owen won the match at the beginning of the night and stares Brett down. And you knew right there. And WWF brilliantly set up their summer tour.
What do you think of that, McMahon?
All the house shows were going to be centered around Brett and Owen, and it made perfect sense. Owen beats Brett clean in the beginning match, and then Brett wins the title later. Owen could say, "I beat you, brother, clean, so I should be world champion." It was perfect. Oh God. And this leads right into their SummerSlam match of 90.
I was gonna say, we actually have a steel cage match at SummerSlam for the title.
They couldn't bleed. This was during an era of no blood, and these two guys devised this match. Again, if you haven't fucking seen
match, by the way,
if you haven't seen this match, go back and watch it because they were told no blood, no violence. How the fuck do you fucking wrestle a match in a cage match? But these guys figured it out. They did this cool leapfrog spot where they would leapfrogged over each other trying to get to the cage door and beating each other. I'm not even doing it justice by talking about it right now. Go back and watch SummerSlam 94, Brett versus Owen steel cage match for the WWF title. And it's so innovative and crazy. Again, it shows how fucking good Brett and Owen were and how in touch they were. We can't bleed. We can't do violence. And we're in a cage. What the fuck are you doing? Okay, you know what? Whatever. We'll fucking figure it out. And they did it.
Come on, Owen, jump off! Jump off, Owen! Jump off, Owen!
Have it. Brett now with Owen. And it's Owen.
Oh, wait a minute. Owen.
Look at that. And Brett runs it.
Oh, no!
The winner of this match. And still World Wrestling Federation champion.
And to your point, Jess, then we go on to a lumberjack match where Owen actually wins, but guess what? It's a dusty finish. The match is forced to continue, and then Brett wins that match. I don't know if you want to discuss that briefly, but we get into Survivor Series after that. Tell me if you want to discuss that dusty finish or not.
No.
Good. So Survivor Series was where Owen actually crossed Brett again, forcing Helen and their mom to throw in the towel for Brett while he was facing Bob Backlund.
And Bob Backlund would beat him for the title.
Yeah, that causes Brett to lose the title. And then he also keeps Brett from beating Diesel in Royal Rumble of 95. There's a ton of feud stuff going on here. And then finally, Brett soundly beats Owen weeks later, and that ends the feud with that said match. Anything you want to add to the Owen Brett feud before we move on?
No, it was so good. And I, honestly, like, go back and watch the whole thing. If you have a few hours, one night when you're off work or you're whatever, like, go back and watch the whole Brett versus Owen feud. They were so good. There's so many feuds on this podcast that we talk about that were supposed to be, but when they actually got together, it was like oil and water. And
how are those chips, cuz?
I was saying, or it was like cuz eating chips, because that's all I could hear. So there's so many feuds where it's like oil and water. Hogan and Flair were supposed to tear everyone dreamed about that match, but when they fought, it was like oil and water. Owen and Brett were like fucking like it was poetry. It was like flowing water.
Free-flowing,
it was
bro.
like they were so good, and it showed that Owen understood. More importantly, because we're talking about Owen, it showed that he understood how to wrestle, and he was really talented. Brett was talented in a different way than Owen was. Amazing that they both came from the same family. And like Owen understood how to do it, but different than Brett. Owen was more of a high flyer. He was more of a risk taker. Where Brett was just so technically sound and so good at what he did that you were just like, God damn, Brett's a ring general. Like, he's so good. So it's amazing. The two opposites came from the same family. And then when they met, it was not oil and water. It was just fucking, it gelled. It was art. It was art. It was fucking fantastic. I love them. So I love them together. I love everything they did, and it sucked when they were over. But
I think it's
they reunite later, and I know you're going to get to that. But like, it was
we'll
great.
Talk about it.
It was great.
Sure. Well, before we do, we'll jump into 96, 97. That's when he teams with the British Bulldog, right? Bulldog and Owen, they team with Cornette's Camp. It's a stable ran by obviously Jim Cornette. Owen started tagging with Bulldog more and more, and eventually they actually beat the WWF champions. The Smoking Guns, hey, who were those guys? I seem to believe a Mr. Ass, right? And somebody who was a big part of the, oh gosh, what was the challenge, Jess? The boxing that...
Oh, Brawl for All?
The Brawl for All bullshit. Like, the Smoking Guns were a big part of this this time frame, for good or bad. And, they took them down at In Your House in 1996, In Your House 10. But tensions over storylines start to flare over the European title, which I believe Davey Boy was holding, and over some other miscommunications. Jess, do you want to discuss that real quick?
Yeah, it was just, they were just trying to make stuff work here. Here, you get in that murky water where WCW was starting to put the pressure on, and WWF was really trying to like figure out, who they had, who would fit in their new direction and all that stuff. And so, they just, they put family versus family and all that stuff. And Owen won some tag titles with Bulldog, and then they kind of feud over the European title and all that stuff. It was a mishmash. It wasn't terrible, but like, in WrestleMania 13 in 97, like they defended the tag titles against Vader and Mankind in a kind of a average match at best. And, it was just kind of like they were trying to really fit them. They were trying they were trying to keep the Hart storyline going, even though Brett wasn't involved at the time. It was just, the brother-in-law and Owen and all that stuff. They were just trying to really keep it churning out.
Sure. Yeah. That's pretty much it, and it's kind of interesting because the tension started to flare over that European title. We talk about that. And they lose the tag titles to, is it Furess and LaFron? And the Survivor Series match?
Doug Furnas and...
what the fuck is... What is going on here, man? Can someone explain this to me?
No, it's just a tag team they brought in WWF. Doug Furnas and Philip LaFron were... They did shit in ECW and all that stuff, and they were... I want to say they did shit in Japan too. They were really good wrestlers, but they had no charisma. So Vince...
No push.
Vince was trying to push them, and it didn't work out. That's really all that needs to be said about that.
So weird. Went in down through the title on them, and then obviously did not work out. But, because they didn't work out, they would actually get those titles back from the Headbangers on a Monday Night Raw in 97. And then they lost them to Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin on May 26 of 97. Owen would demand a title shot from the Bulldog for the Euro title, and he would feud with Stone Cold after. So anything you want to say about that before we go on to the 97 IC title, the reformation with the Hart Foundation, and we're getting to the meaty greedy?
Nope, it was just that, they were trying to figure out a position for Owen.
Yeah, I think that's really. It's so weird they couldn't find something for him, but they're really trying at least. It's not like Vince is like, I got nothing for you. It's like, hey, let's try this, right? So they're definitely working. Owen's getting a lot of time, so it is important. And then April 28th of '97, Owen quickly wins the IC title, and at this moment, believe it or not, every belt in the WWF is held by the Hart stable. So if you're a Hart fan of the family, it's a pretty cool time for you, right?
That whole Hart, let's go back to that moment where Brett was turning heel and he still hadn't reformed the Hart Foundation yet. And then they had that famous promo where he went in there and confronted Bulldog and Owen, and he ended up hugging Owen.
I can't believe what we're seeing here tonight. Look at that look of despair, disdain.
Shut up, man. Shut up. This is beautiful.
I guess anything can happen.
This is more heartwarming than the Walter family reunion last night.
Well, I guess we have experienced somewhat of a family reunion.
And that clip, like, not only solidified Brett's heel run, but it was so awesome the way they did it, because it's like the way he did it was he kind of like corrupted Owen the way Owen was corrupted originally when he turned heel, if that makes any sense. When they did the hug, Brett's face was amazing. And it was just kind of like, I just tricked my brother and Owen, or my brother and Bulldog, to coming back to the dark side. And Brett's face was just sort of like, yeah, that's my big goal. Like, and like,
I know I don't want to get too crazy about Brett, because we're talking about this was the greatest time for Brett's
God,
career.
this promo was so awesome. Reuniting with Owen and doing that hug and all that stuff was like so good. And like, then we only knew the Hart Foundation as Brett and Jim from before.
Yes.
Now it's like the Hart Foundation, like a fucking family. And this was this was so good. Brett 97 and Owen and the Hart Foundation 97, so fucking good. So good.
Yep. Yeah. And Owen is truly deserving of the IC title at this time. I mean, he's more than earned it. I mean, he has that great nostalgia where he can get those boos, get those cheers, whatever you want him to do. He could turn on a dime. Not everybody can do that. And that actually brings us to SummerSlam of 97. I know that Cuz can't wait for this. Keep it in your pants, buddy. So the infamous Kiss My Ass match with Stone Cold Steve Austin. But that's really not, it wasn't famous for the Kiss My Ass match. This was discussed in our Austin bio. Can we get a snapshot of what actually happened? I know we talked about it. Cuz take it away, or Jess, whoever wants to run with it. Talk about what happened. I know we seem to talk about this over and over and whose fault it was, but just briefly discuss.
I mean, we should focus more on Owen. Obviously, we don't want to sidetrack on other wrestlers like we said earlier. But this is obviously the match where Austin gets dropped on his head, on his stack of dimes of a neck.
Yeah. And
can I say, I know there's been a lot of things said about it, and Austin's written about it in his book and all that stuff, and he loved Owen so much. First of all, like, we'll talk about it at the end, but like, everybody loved Owen in the back. He would do ribs, like harmless ribs on people, because traveling on the road day in and day out, you get fucking crazy. You get fucking cabin fever. You're just traveling and hotel stay, wrestling, hotel stay, traveling, wrestling, hotel stay. And Owen was like, just great stories about Owen that you hear at Brett's Hall of Fame speech and all that stuff about how funny he was, and he would rib people and all that stuff. Like, he would, go and check into a hotel room and be like, yeah, we want this and that and this, and we want all this kind of service or whatever. And they're like, oh, who do I put it under? Put it under Jim Powers. Like, and shit like that, like, just good shit, and like, he was so good, it's so funny, and there's not one wrestler that you could ever research and find a bad thing about Owen. And unfortunately, like the kicked your leg out of your leg and all that stuff, like, Owen kind of had a clumsy funny, thing about him that always followed him. I didn't cover it at the end of WrestleMania 10 when he beat Brett. He goes in the back and they do an interview and they put it on the big screen. And he has a fucking like snot booger on the side of his mouth in WrestleMania 10. God. And that's just it's so Owen, right? It's so Owen. And it, that's all harmless and stuff. But then it gets to SummerSlam 97 when they do this spot where they're going to reverse tombstone pile drivers over and over again. And I've described it on the Austin episode where a tombstone pile driver, when you hear about it, it's like what the Undertaker does. He picks you up, puts his face kind of facing towards his crotch, and he falls down on his knees and quote unquote pile drives you and tombstones you. Owen, even in Calgary, I had seen so many tapes of it where he would pick people up in the same fashion that the Undertaker does, but he would sit down into a classic pile driver move. So he would sit down on his ass. And that's how he always did that move. Somehow, between Austin and Owen, when they communicated that spot for the match at SummerSlam 97, that something got lost in translation. So Austin thought he was going to fall forward, but Owen dropped on his ass. And when he dropped on his ass, Austin was preparing for the other thing, that fall forward, and Owen was preparing for the fall on his ass. And he dropped Austin right on his fucking head and compressed his spine, and we covered it on the Austin episode, created all kinds of fucking injuries for Austin. And it just happens, right? Like it just so happened to happen at, the second biggest pay-per-view of the year at SummerSlam. And it happened on the night that Austin was supposed to stun him clean and beat him for the IC belt. And the Austin Rocket was supposed to take off from the Stardom, or the Stars. Sure. And it just didn't happen like that. And it was awkward. I don't want to, talk about it. Go to the end of the match. We played a clip from the Austin episode. Go to SummerSlam 97 and watch it. Not because it's fun, but because it's super uncomfortable. And
it's also super important.
It's super important, but super uncomfortable. And Austin, even in his book, said he never really forgave Owen until Owen died. Like that it's just, there's a lot of stuff that went on. Like, usually when you hurt someone in the wrestling industry, you call them the next day when they're in the hospital. Are you okay? You go and visit them and all that stuff. Austin said that Owen never called him, and he got mad at that, and he couldn't figure out why. And later, when you read Brett's book and other people's books, that Owen was so ashamed that he couldn't call Austin and even say he was sorry. And he was very, very fucking sorry. But he just was so ashamed and embarrassed that he couldn't even call Austin. He felt calling Austin every day would be like a slap in Austin's face as a reminder. So Austin never knew that. Austin got mad at him and harbored a lot of ill will towards him for a couple of years after that. But Owen, on the other end, was just, he couldn't call and apologize because he felt like, I'm going to insult the guy's intelligence. And it's sad. That really sucks. It really sucks because not only because we know what happened to Owen later, but because he wasn't.
They never truly reconciled.
Yeah, Owen was not a reckless guy. He really wasn't.
No. He didn't hurt.
And
he
didn't mean to do it. And
he
just did it on the guy on a live pay-per-view, the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, on a guy that they were getting ready to strap the Rocket to, and Owen fucking dropped him on his head, and it sucks. It sucks.
An opportunist with Owen Hart now. Let's see what Austin can do with Eamon. No. How about that? Tombstone pile driver. Saves of the Undertaker.
Yeah. Which, quite frankly, is probably a really good reason why you don't see pile drivers happening very often.
Yeah, it's one of the big reasons.
Yeah. So it's quite impressive of how the wrestling world changes because of one incident. What also is interesting is in spite of all that, I mean, Owen actually came out with shirts saying Owen 316 says, I just broke your neck.
With Austin's permission.
Even like, I'm just saying, I know that sounds really terrible, but at the same time, this shows how Owen was just way ahead of his time.
Well, and he got permission for that, and they knew
he still used it.
Once they realized the condition of Austin, they knew eventually he would come back. So they were obviously prepping for a rematch to where Austin could beat him proper.
Sure, and they did that, right? They actually did eventually.
Survivor Series 97.
And they did. So, they get Survivor 97. We know that Stone Cold beats Owen the way he should have, right? And we talk about that very detailed in the Austin episode. So let's jump ahead a little bit. We got 97, 98. We're going to talk about the Black Heart, Lone Heart era. Owen actually developed the quote, face with an attitude, unquote, after attacking Shawn Michaels at In Your House, D-Generation X. He actually feuded with all of D-Generation X, even coming close to beating Michaels.
Okay.
Yeah. And he actually even comes close to beating Michaels for the title in a December 97 episode of Raw, causing Triple H to interfere. And even actually after this point,
Jesus.
Yeah, Owen wins the Euro title from Triple H, and they actually trade that title back and forth a little bit. Hart turns heel by attacking Kim Shamrock 4 weeks later after WrestleMania.
And that's a good point to go. They had a pretty good WrestleMania match for the European title, Triple H and Owen.
Yeah, it was good.
And this was all after Brett got screwed. And again, I don't want to talk too much about the Montreal screw job because it's been talked about to death. But Owen did not leave. They convinced him to stay and write his contract out and stuff. And at this point, it's important to note that Owen and his wife were on a retirement plan. They did not want Owen to wrestle past another 3-4 years. And they had a dream home that they had in mind. And they wanted Owen to save up money. And Owen wanted to be a firefighter for a long time. And that's sure. If he wasn't going to retire when he got out of wrestling, he was going to become part of the Fire Academy in Canada. And him and his wife were going to live the rest of their life in their dream home, watching the sun come up every day and watching it go down. And that was their plan. So at this point, Brett and Owen talked when Brett got screwed, and they decided, even Brett said stay, because the contract you're getting there is good. You'll get a constant push. You might get a spike in money if you come to WCW, but they're going to bury you. So just stay with WWF, ride your contract out. You're going to make the money that you want to make to retire like you want, and you can leave.
Because they based everything on your appearances and what you got paid on the show, on the house show.
Yeah.
So, and then Owen would always draw. So they were going to put him in. So a little bit different now, obviously, but that's what it was back then. So Owen was always going to be a big part of a house draw because Owen was good. Owen will always be known as amazing, right? So we talk about, he turns heel. He actually attacks Kim Shamrock after WrestleMania about 4 weeks after. And this is really amazing. He actually becomes co-leader.
I love it.
But he becomes co-leader with The Rock in the Nation of Domination. Only Owen can pull this off. And they start a feud with DX as well. And this is hilarious, guys. Talk about the famous parody that comes in with it. Just because, Jess, have at it. I want to talk about the Nugget story. I want to talk about the just Triple H and Shawn making fun of the Nation of Domination. It's just gold. I mean, dig in.
Yeah, they dug it in. Michaels and them came up with, you're the last Hart. Because when Brett got screwed and left, Jim Neidhart went with him, Bulldog went with him to WCW. So Owen was the only one left. They
bailed out, yeah.
So DX, they were pushing the envelope and trying to be risque, and they said, they compared Owen to when you take a shit in the toilet and you flush it and that one little piece comes back up and just won't fucking go down. That's Owen Hart. He's the Hart Nugget. And so that's why
Hart Nugget.
That's why Owen would be like, I'm not a nugget on a lot of his promos and all that stuff. They kind of became famous.
Even his theme song, I'm not a nugget.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that's how Owen led into that.
I'm gonna play his theme song.
There you go. That's hilarious. All right. Yeah, it's great TV, and it kept people tuned in. And like you said, Jess, this is where everything kind of, the wars are coming in pretty hot and heavy here pretty quick. And this is the kind of stuff that kept people engaged, along with what was on top of Stone Cold and everything else, right? So, and then this is going to get a little tough. We'll do our best, but 98, 99, we talk about Jeff Jarrett and the Blue Blazer return. SummerSlam 98, Owen teams up with Jeff Jarrett, and there's talk of a storyline where Deborah, their manager, and Owen have an affair. That was actually talked about quite a bit. But Owen shuts that down. He's not really about that. I think that's kind of about his personal relationship at home with his wife. He didn't want to do that. So instead, there's Owen using the storyline of injuring Dan Severn, and he quits the WWF over injuring Dan Severn.
In storyline.
In storyline, yes. So he, quote unquote, injures him.
Is not healed. He's not been cleared to return.
Yeah, he quits the WWF, and this all comes down because Owen wants to bring back the Blue Blazer gimmick, but heel style, right? So it's all gimmick comically. It's a story of Owen and Jarrett. They made that the way by proving that the Blue Blazer the whole time was not Owen Hart. They would kind of go back and forth. They would rib it all the way through. And that duo actually won the tag titles in January of 99 from Shamrock and Bossman, which is kind of a weird pairing, but
But they clicked though. Anyway, Jeff Jarrett and Owen clicked.
Yeah, they did.
And they made it work. And let me just say, since Brett left,
sure.
Like Vince was trying, but honestly, like they didn't have any plans for Owen, and Owen just kind of like fell in the mid card. And again, it shows how talented he is. And Jeff and him really wanted to make it work. And Jeff Jarrett in real life loved Owen Hart, and we'll talk about it more when we get to what happens with Owen. And Jeff Jarrett is really like emotional about it, and they were really good friends, and like they both kind of saved each other because Jeff was kind of floundering a little bit and trying to figure out, and so was Owen, and like they just gravitated to each other and made that tag team work. And it was over. It was fun, and Deborah was a big part of that too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like I said, they won those tag titles in January of 99, and then they would lose them in April of same year to Kane and X-Pac. Another interesting pairing, right? So, don't know how else to bring this up. This is where the Over the Edge pay-per-view, this is May 23rd in 1999. This is the horrible incident that causes Owen to tragically pass away. Guys, you can interrupt me wherever you want to. This is hard to talk about because I think we're all very fond of Owen, and there's tons of things that happen here down the road that are just, I got to tell you, it's just a damn shame, after his death as well. So let's talk about it. We all know that Owen, for whatever reason in the Blue Blazer gimmick, he's coming down. Very similar to how Shawn Michaels was coming down on a harness with quick release. I think Shawn Michaels was not a quick release. He was very much secured to that line. But basically, it was a zip line to come down into the ring. And because he wanted to have that quick release to get out quickly, I think there was even a plan of him to like kind of flip out of it. But that quick release actually failed, and he fell several feet. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me wrong, he actually hit the steel cable ropes first thing, and incredibly tragic. And I know that they brought medics in and they carried him out, but he was basically unrecoverable. Yeah, please go ahead. Please jump in.
Recently, everybody knows Conrad Thompson. Like, he made Bruce Pritchard kind of relevant again, and he took over Shivani and Bischoff and all that stuff. But he recently took over JR's podcast, and they did like their second or third episode in was the death of Owen, and Jim Ross was there. He was commentating that night. Yeah, and I know this sounds stupid for me to say, but forgive me if I get emotional, because let me tell you, I didn't see this pay-per-view. I was supposed to, but I had to work that day. And when I got home from work, I was renting an apartment at the time, and I got in my house and I saw a flashing message on my answering machine, because back then we had answering machines. And it was my good buddy Chris, and he had been watching the pay-per-view, and he was like, hey Jess, it's Chris. Like, did you see what happened to Owen? I don't know if it's real or fake, but major media outlets are picking it up, and I don't know what's going on. I think it's real. And so I got the replay immediately, and they did not replay it. And it was they cut out that match. They replayed the pay-per-view, but they cut out that match. And so I had to read everything online. And so I never saw it. And nobody saw it that saw it live.
I never did either, by the way.
The live pay-per-view never showed it. When it happened was they went to the match. So they went to the video package like they always do leading up to that match. It was supposed to be Owen Hart in the Blue Blazer costume versus the Godfather for the IC belt. And I do believe Owen was supposed to win. And as the Blue Blazer. What happened was, and the way they told it, and go back and listen to the Conrad and Jim Ross episode on grilling JR, and it's emotional, and Conrad almost cries, and they talk about it because he reads excerpts from Martha's book and people's other books, and basically what happened was there was a safety device that was put on there, but Owen wore a big cape as the Blue Blazer, and it was kind of stressing the connection. So Owen kept trying to flip the cape. This is what Martha put in her book. So Martha must have heard a lot of information from other people. And when he went to flick it to get the cape back, he did a big jerk and it pulled the safety clasp apart and he fell to his death. And the referee that was in the ring, he said all he remembers is a wish, like a whoosh, like going right next to him. And he saw Owen hit like the ropes in the turnbuckle face first from all the way up at the top of the Kemper Arena. And it was like 85 feet or some shit like that. 75 feet or something like that. I don't remember. I don't want to quote it wrong. And yeah. And he fell to the mat on his back. And when Conrad lost it, it was like Martha described in her book that he was trying to get up. and he was just trying to sit up. And it's stupid that I'm crying right now, but like I love wrestling so much. And like when you see something stupid like this happen, where like they did a stupid gimmick, Sting had been doing it for like a year before. And the guy that was up there with Owen had actually physically done it with Sting. And I don't know if they changed the clasp or they did something different, but like they changed something and didn't really they did like a half-ass rehearsal. And I know there's lawsuits against the company that was supposed to be in charge of the safety, and the Martha sued WWF and all that stuff. And I don't even know the details on that. But what happened was, I'm just talking about like a father that was up there and he was just doing a fucking stupid character. And I'm sorry to get mad, but that's all he was doing. And he's, we get upset about, storylines being done wrong and this guy's not being pushed or whatever. But this guy was up being lured from a cable, doing a stupid fucking character, doing an acting job. And he fucking fell and died. And his wife and his kids are alive now. And he couldn't build that dream home. And maybe I'm crying because I have kids that are 2.5 years old and I couldn't imagine it. Maybe I'm crying because I'm stupid and we kind of alcohol ourselves a little bit before this show. But like, I remember being upset and I cried when I heard the answering machine message in 1999 because I just felt like this is just dumb. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what? Wrestling's fake and we take it all seriously and we get mad when Samoa Joe's booked to lose every week and all that stuff. And, we joke about that. But like this fucking guy, like fell from the top of a fucking arena to do a stupid fucking stunt. Like, and I can't get mad at Russo because people want to do that and get mad at Vince and the company. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard, but I'm just mad at the situation, right? I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not even blaming the guy that half-ass trained him about the harness. He was up there and he was elevated and he jerked his cape according to his wife's book, and it just caused the clasp to open up and he fell. And the description is making me cry because the ref describes it as like this fucking force hitting the turnbuckle, and you just looked at him and you just see Owen on the ground on his back, and he tried to raise his arms and sit up. And that image to me, even though nobody ever saw it live on pay-per-view, and Jim Ross described the same thing because Jim Ross is like, we commentate and we look at our monitors, and I just saw whoosh go down on my monitor, and I looked up in the ring and I just see the ref and he had a confused look on his face, and I see a body laying in the corner, and nobody, it happened in a second and nobody could process it. So people that critique Vince for not canceling the event, I don't know what you do at this point. I think about it.
Yeah, that was.
You have like 17,000 people or 16,000 people
continuing the event, right?
in the arena.
There.
I watched it live on pay-per-view.
Yeah, so you did see it. Because they didn't show it, but like, and then Jim Ross had to fucking give reports, and Jim Ross was live on the air when he had to come across and say Owen Hart has died.
Yes.
And like, this is a guy that they all knew that had played ribs on his family. And everybody else, like, it's just this realistic thing that we watch a fake wrestling show and it's a show and we take it so seriously. It just makes me feel silly for taking it all seriously, right? For getting mad when a guy's not pushed when we're just talking about a guy who fell and died. And like in the most horrific fucking way. Like, I don't even want to know what the man thought before he hit the turnbuckle. I don't even know if he thought anything. Did he think about his family? I don't know. Like, it's just so fucking crazy and fucking like, what the fuck? Right? Am I being over like dramatic about it? Or it's fucking nuts. I think it's nuts, dude. Like, and it's not because he was like a Hogan or and I'm not trying to belittle Owen's position in the wrestling world. It's not like it was a Hogan dying or a Flair, or, Austin or this big star. I mean, Owen was a big star. I'm not saying that. It's like he was just it happened to be this guy that was super funny in the back and the guy that made a lot of the other wrestlers feel comfortable from being away from their wives and their family every day. And he would do funny shit and make them laugh. And this guy died like that. I feel embarrassed for crying, but like, it's just so fucking like, what the fuck are we doing? Dropping a guy from the ceiling, right? But nobody knew. And maybe again, I'm sorry for being stupid.
Well, back in those days, Jess, I really feel that. I
remember when Chris left me the message
in the situation, they feel very much invincible.
When he left the message,
nobody realized what was going to happen.
Yeah, my friend Chris, when he left that message, when I heard the message on the answer machine, I cried. I remember distinctly after hearing that, and I didn't even know anything yet, like because I'd missed the pay-per-view and him falling, and I just cried because I was like, Owen, like what, like. He's great. Like, and I'd heard, internet was kind of in its infancy, and I'd heard all the great stories about him and about how funny he was and how he tried to make light in the back. And, he's just that guy that people would just laugh at. You hear the stories from Foley where they'd be at house shows and he would go and, like they sell the popcorn in the big, huge plastic bags, like in the arenas. And Owen grabbed one from the front row at a house show and started beating Foley with it. And Foley said he was just laughing his fucking ass off because he couldn't believe that Owen would go out to the crowd and grab this big fucking popcorn bag and beat Foley with it like it was a steel chair. And Foley had to sell it, but he was laughing as he was selling it. And there were other shit that he would do.
Easiest night of his life.
Yeah, right? Undertaker never laughed. But when Undertaker was in a tag match across from Owen, you would just see Undertaker with his head down and his body shaking because he'd be laughing because Owen would do just stupid shit and make everybody laugh. And it's like, God, that guy.
Well, you hear all the deadlifts. Owen would like make his body heavy.
Yeah,
and just shit like that. Just fucking.
Yeah, that guy's the one that died, really. And I'm not saying anybody deserved to die. I'm just saying like that guy, really. That guy's the one that fell, and in the most horrific way we've ever known in wrestling. That guy that brought so much light and talked about normal, awesome stuff, Americana stuff, right? I want to retire with my wife. I want to fucking watch the sunrise.
Sure.
I want to build our dream home and watch our kids. And every day I want to watch the sunset and kiss him goodnight. That guy died like this. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
Just to kind of put some light on that, if there were more people like Owen in a wrestling persona like today, like the Machine, like WWE, you'd have less complaints, quite frankly, because it would make the road easier. It would make things a little bit more bearable, and you wouldn't have all the issues you have today. I mean, I know it's crazy to think that way, but there are people in your life that just make things more fun, and it makes your life and
but that's the guy
personally more bearable.
You know what I mean?
He was
again, I'm not saying any guy deserves to die like that, but I mean, like, that's the guy, really, that dies like that. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on? Like,
I mean, and think about it right now. Jeff Jarrett is still wrestling on a part-time basis. I mean, Owen would still be working right now.
He would probably been a big part in WWE going forward. He'd be in the Hall of Fame right now.
Coach or something. Yeah.
He'd be in the Hall of Fame right now.
His career, we're going to talk about that because, his career would have been profound throughout wrestling, even in WWF or WWE and beyond, because he would have been able to influence so many others for a longer period of time had we not lost him so soon. Speaking of that aftermath, Jess just commented he would have been in the Hall of Fame without question. So let's talk about those issues. Talk about why he's not there. There are several wrestlers already that are just begging for Owen to be there. Jess or Cuz, can you expand on that? Why it hasn't happened? I think many know, but not everybody does. I think it needs to be discussed. And he is in other Hall of Fames, but not the WWE Hall of Fame. Why is that?
Martha, his wife, his widow, does not want it because she believes that you could say she's wrong or right, but she still he died there. And she felt that he died needlessly, and that stunt didn't need to happen. And the Blue Blazer could have been still the character where he was, because the whole character that he was before the Blue Blazer was he was like Owen would be in the ring, and then they would have somebody else come in as a Blue Blazer costume and be like, "See, we're two separate people," but people really knew that it was Owen Hart. You know what I mean? They were doing this whole thing where Owen was kind of mentally kind of having a breakdown and becoming the Blue Blazer, his alter ego. You know, that's kind of to lead you in. And so she just felt like you could have done that storyline without lowering him from the cables, and you didn't have to do it. And Sting being successfully, lowered from the cable almost every week in '97 from WCW, that it was something they could do. And so again, I'm not even blaming WWE for this or whoever wrote that. It's stupid. When Piper and Cornette used to get on the horn and they blamed Russo for that, like that's stupid. And, it was wrestling. Nobody knew. It's easy to look back and be like, yeah, that it's, a Monday morning quarterback. But yeah, like she doesn't want him to be in there because I don't know if the lawsuit's still active, but she still blames them for that. So she's just like, I don't feel that he should be in the Hall of Fame because it's what they want. And they will view it as closure. And she's like, it's not that I want them to suffer. It's just that I don't think he should ever be graced in their halls because I not only did I have an active lawsuit against the company that was supposed to be teaching him safety.
And I believe that's been settled out, but still she's not going to allow it.
And can I tell you, there are some people that are just like, get the fuck over it, let him be in it, whatever. That is so selfish.
It's hard. You can't make it.
That is so selfish. And I will say this, I support her 100%. And if she never wants him to be in WWE Hall of Fame, then I don't give a shit. Then he will never be in the WWE Hall of Fame, and it's totally fine because it didn't stop me. It didn't stop me from being emotional thinking about his death right now. It doesn't stop anything. So it's fine. If he gets there and she eventually lets it, that's fine. Even Brett's come out and gone against her and said, you should let my brother. But you know what? No. If she doesn't want it to happen, it doesn't need to fucking happen. That's it. That's it.
I'm with you on that. If they can't come to a compromise with her, I will never be mad at Martha for that. Like I said, guys, Martha was going to be a big part of this discussion at the end, but we had to discuss. She was a big part of his, I would say 2/3 of his life. So it is important. They met in high school. I mean, come on, so his life ended so suddenly. She was a big part of the majority of his life, and it does matter. One thing I'll caveat to this, and I'm probably playing devil's advocate. I might catch shit later on in some comments, but what I really wish, and you see, and this is the thing, I'm not a Mark Henry fan. Mark Henry's okay. He had his moment, he has 15 minutes, whatever. I really believe that Mark Henry's statements in his Hall of Fame speech, begging Owen to be in there, is so heartfelt.
I think
it's
so.
not.
It's
saw the night after on Raw.
His heart is in the right place, but it's not his decision.
No,
and she does not have to.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that his heart's in the right place, and I totally agree with that. And he's begging for that to happen because they know. I think that at this point, there's nobody more deserving of that Hall of Fame segment at this moment in time, right? Because Hogan's in, Flair's in, all these big names, Sting's in, they're in. There's nobody at this moment.
Not even that. I'd go at the lower end. Fucking Hillbilly's in, Coco's in. Boris is in.
That's what I'm saying. So when you look at the legacy of Owen Hart, there's nobody at this moment more deserving than him to be in that nostalgic ring. Now here's the thing. What I really hope, and I'll catch shit for it. What I really, really hope somehow, someday, somewhere, Because I really believe the reason why Martha's upset about it is, she blames him for one, but also I don't think she wants him to profit on his death in any way, shape, or form. And I completely understand that. I completely respect it. So, and I've talked about this briefly on other podcasts, our free-for-alls, our dark sessions that maybe we didn't lay down and we didn't release, but I really believe they can come to a compromise that anything they do for Owen's Hall of Fame induction, any kind of soft merch that they sell based on that, it completely goes to Owen and Martha's charity. And I think they can work that out. I really believe there's a way they can do it. Yeah.
I know you're right. I know you're right. And I respect that opinion, but like, she doesn't have to do shit.
No,
and if she doesn't want
to. Agreed.
If she doesn't want to, there's nothing wrong with that. I know what?
I would never
sometimes you gotta, it's like people get really mad, and I know we're, this is like way reaching. Sure. People get mad at CM Punk for walking away and just being like, fuck this place, fuck you. And not going to another promotion, just walking the fuck away and trying MMA and doing whatever. And people can't accept that. And I think, and it's not the same thing, but it is with Martha. It's like, she's like, no, fuck you. I want to get as far away as I can from you. And I'm not going to disrespect his legacy. He wrestled in Canada. His family was a wrestling, whatever. But like, so you can get in this Hall of Fame, you can put in that Hall of Fame. But like, you're not going to go here because they want to fucking rape your name. And like, and so you can say she's right in that comment or wrong, but go ahead, Martha, go ahead. Like, because like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have it.
The only thing I'll say to that, and I'm
I bring up the Punk thing because like people get violently upset with him because they're like, you walked away, but they really want him to come back. They really want him to come back. It's like they're hoping that they could say something so sharp and cutting that it hurts him to turn around. They're hoping so hard that they could fucking Martha, you're fucking selfish and all this stuff, and she's gonna be like, you know what, you're right. No, like don't cave to that pressure. Say no. Say no until you die, Martha. Say no until you die, because no one has had to live through that. No one's had to get that call, and her to think that guy that told me, yes, baby, let's build our dream house. We're going to watch the sunrise and sunset. She has that memory of him, and that she never gets to say goodbye to him. Her talk was like the night, I think the morning of the pay-per-view, where he was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous or whatever. I'll call you when the show's over. That was their fucking lazy, sloppy last conversation. And when she got to say goodbye to the guy that they planned, he was going to retire like when he was young and maybe go into firefighting or whatever, but they got to have their dream house built and they could hold hands when the sun came up. And when it went down every day, and they could greet their kids when they came home from school, and nobody could tell her. And maybe it's because I have kids now that I understand that point of view, that you can't, like, the simple request of, can we put your husband in the Hall of Fame, pal? She's like, no, how about no? How about fuck you? Like, no. Yeah. Because all my memories are gone. How about, all my fucking...
How about fuck you? How about go fuck yourself? And I get that. I understand that.
But it'll be with her forever. It'll be with her forever
until the legacy of it. Jess, here's the thing, and I really hope that she's not. And if she's not angry and she's not holding on to this anger and this hatred in her heart, which is truly killing her, then do whatever you want. But if she's truly that angry, and that's the thing, I hope that one day this will find a resolution for everyone, where she can let loose of that hatred and she can let go. And there's a lesson to be learned here, and hopefully everybody, the majority of people, kind of get what they want, which is what he deserves to be in that hall. But what I'm saying is, no profitability. No, that's not what it's about. I don't think anybody wants that. They're billionaires now. Hopefully that's not even an issue.
I think she's even against that, because I agree with what you're saying. But the ratings that they'll get, or the views, or the new subscribers on the network,
she'll still hold that anger.
Yeah, right? You can't give that to her charity. Like, in other words, like, she knows that the Hall of Fame now is broadcast on the network. So sometimes people that love Owen, and if you finally get the announcement that Owen will be put in the Hall of Fame, will go out of their way to spend the $10 to get the network for that night, if anything. And she's like, you will not see a dime. Like, you will not. And you know what? Like, you're right. If she can put it to rest and her decision is to finally do it, fine. I will watch it. I'll watch it. But at the same time, like,
I hope it gives her some solace and it gives her some.
I don't know though how that can give her solace of the vision of her husband, which I'm sure she replays over and over in her head. Going, yeah, you know what? Let's plan this and let's plan our dream house. And can you imagine us holding hands and watching something? That is a haunting memory that I don't think she can ever let go of. And
that's fine. And just think about it like this. Here's what I'm saying.
You know what though? Here's the thing though.
If she holds no anger and doesn't want to do it,
right? That's what I'm saying. Maybe her calmness and her. That's a great point, Dave. That's an excellent point. Maybe her calmness right now is saying no. Maybe her saying no makes the pain go away, and her being like, you know what? I feel like the world is right. I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it does.
I'm happy. I'm not angry, but because I would be okay with that, Jess. I just don't.
Brett even said in her book that she would hate, when she would come over for family functions when they talk about wrestling, she would want to leave the room. She hated it. She always wanted him to retire and be a firefighter and do what I said, build their dream home and all that stuff. And they had that plan laid out like a couple of years before he died, and it was stolen from them.
Whatever grants her relief, if that's allowing it or not allowing it, I would. Oh my gosh, all day. I just don't want her to hate her. I don't want her to hate her situation, her involvement forever. That's not fair to her and her family.
Just make her suffer more.
It would be killing.
Right.
And she would suffer even more.
And she does have an incredible foundation to the cause of Owen, and it's fantastic. So, if anybody wants to look that up, I mean, completely support it. It's still going strong, and she's doing a lot with what she can over this tragedy, and I completely commend her for that. I'm not trying to force it. I'm not trying to say. I'm saying whatever grants her the ability to let that hatred go, if she hasn't already. If she has, I'm so happy for her and proud of her to do that, because I don't know what I would do. And I think Jess is the same way. Jess has shown in this podcast how emotional it is, and we don't even know Owen personally, but we know how tragic that could be if we left our families and our kids in that situation. How that's going to affect their lives, and it's a horrible way to leave your family. And
because I know we take it seriously.
We just hope the best for the Hart family.
We take it seriously, and we get all mad about pushes and this guy should be a heel or face or whatever. But like, when you really think about it, like, this guy died, and I'm going to say from a needless stunt. Because obviously it's easy to look back and say that, right? And I'm not blaming WWE. It's all part of the show, right? But like, we push it. It's so funny how we get so mad about like storylines, but yet this guy really fell and did all the things. And you have the referee's account of what happened, and Jim Ross's account, and Martha's, from what she heard from people and wrote in her book. And it's just like this horrific fucking thing. And you're like, what the fuck are we doing? This is fake, right? I know people get mad at that word, and wrestling fans, and we've defended that, it's not fake, it's predetermined, but like, it's when someone dies, it's fucking fake, folks. It's an act.
You're going to throw all that shit up.
It's an act, bro. It's a fucking script, and it's a movie, and this shit did not need to happen. I'm sure people felt the same when Bruce Lee was a junior, the one who died at the filming of The Crow.
Sure.
Brandon Lee. It's like, dude, this is a fucking movie, and he fucking got hit with shrapnel from a fake gun, I think, and killed him.
It's so weird.
It's just like, this is, what the fuck? So I can understand how people get mad at the process, because they're like, this fucking is fake. This isn't even life. Yeah. This isn't even what matters. What you say to your kids before they go to school, that matters. What you say to your wife before you leave for work, that matters. The plan you lay with your wife to retire and what you're going to do with your life, that matters. This is fucking dumb. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Who the fuck didn't make sure that gun was fake? Who the fuck didn't make sure that harness held? Who the fuck didn't plan for his cape to be too heavy to fucking trip the safety cable? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? It's easy to do that. It's easy to get mad. I'm just mad that it happened. And sorry if I sounded stupid on this podcast, and people might think that I'm doing it for attention, but it sucks, because I remember crying after I heard that answering machine message and going no, because I knew right then, this is wrestling, this is fake, right? So however I'm going to find out that he died is fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. Yeah. Even if he got dropped on his head in a pile driver, like Austin could have easily had happen to him, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's bullshit too. But like, it's just like, man, like, when someone dies from a stunt being lowered from a cable, that's different than being dropped.
Maybe we can briefly talk about it. I was more in shock because I was watching the pay-per-view live, like from home, of course, on cable pay-per-view. And I was more shocked, more like the silent, like, wow, like, can't believe it. Where I actually cried was the next night on Raw, the tribute.
Oh yeah, that
Jesus
tribute.
Christ.
I mean, like, to say it's good TV is a disservice because like it's not good TV. It's not about that.
No.
But like, yeah, man, like sometimes I do. Like every now and then I'll go back and watch that and I'll cry. I'm gonna be honest. And like, it's just like, fuck, like you saw like Jeff Jarrett, even the night of the pay-per-view when Jeff Jarrett came out to wrestle later that night, you saw he was crying.
So upset.
That night, and because he knew that he died at that moment, and then like it's so hard to watch them, and even on Raw, like just watching Mark Henry cry, and read that poem, and like all that stuff, it's like, oh my god, like and Austin to come in, and I know it was kind of symbolic, and it was part of the show, and people could say, oh, but like, even I think Austin wouldn't have done it if Austin didn't mean it. He cheered his pitcher because he was kind of like, I'm letting it go. What you did to me was nothing compared to how you left us. Like, so, hey man, we're cool. And I think Austin really did a great job, not as a performer, but as a human being saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Austin did an amazing job saying like, it's cool. I forgive you because like what happened to you is just like not even good. Like, we voluntarily wrestle. We trust each other with moves and it could happen. We could be too sweaty or put too much baby oil on it. We could drop someone on their head. That happens.
Or you can dead weight.
But what happened with you is something that's way different. And let me tell you, Owen, and the way he cheers them was just like goodbye. Yeah. And like, it's cool. It's okay. Genuine. And like Austin even said later he forgave him and all that stuff, and it was just kind of that way. And like, it's I mean, I don't know how you want to end it, but it's just like it's when he was gone, it was over.
I mean, you got when you talk about his legacy, there's 12 titles that I can count over his time frame, over his wrestling career. Owen won every WWF championship other than the heavyweight title. He's a King of the Ring winner. He's a 3-time Slammy Award winner, which I love when he would carry those around and tell everybody how he was a Slammy Award winner. He took things like dropping, Stone Cold on his head and carrying T-shirts saying, I broke your neck and all that kind of stuff. He would take even the worst of situations and make them into the best of them. And because of that, Owen was truly ahead of his time. So
he had to live in the shadow of Bret, and so many people consider Bret like one of the best ever. And Bret's work is like second to none. And like, when you're talking about the pro wrestling realm, like he had to come and be a star over Bret Star, which Bret was huge. Bret was a great technician and knew how to get people over. And Bret, I know we said it in the Austin episode, like it sounds plain to say this, but Bret was a fucking great, phenomenal professional wrestler. And I said the same thing about Austin. And if you really think about what that means, what I said, that's a big deal. And like, that's the very fucking sport or whatever you want to call it that they do. He was a fucking Bret. So for Owen to have to be like, I have to be kind of different than Bret and be as good as Bret, not only to wrestle him, but be my own guy after him. That's how good Owen was. So think about that.
To be different and better.
God, like, I don't even know about better. I'm not even going to start that talk. But
he tried. I'm saying he tried.
But yeah, like to be part of the Hart family, and Owen was, even before he died, people knew who Owen was. Like, and he had a great feud with Bret, and so people knew it with the name Owen Hart. So before he died, he was still revered, and people loved him. Not only for the way he made people feel at ease in the back, but how good he was in the ring. And again, the second match I never talked about was King of the Ring 94. You guys out there want to bitch that so-and-so only got a 5-minute match. Go and watch a live pay-per-view match, which was legitly almost 5 minutes to the second of 1-2-3 Kid versus Owen Hart in the second round, I want to say, of the King of the Ring tournament and the King of the Ring pay-per-view 94. Yeah. And it is a fucking great match. And they wrapped it up in a bow in 5 fucking minutes with entrances and everything. And go back and watch this match, and it's so good. And like, you're just going to be like, oh, I'm a dumb shit for complaining that I only got 5 minutes. No, go watch these fucking guys. They went out in 5 minutes in live time on a pay-per-view and tore the fucking house down. And Owen and Kid deserve the credit too. Six-Pac, Sean Waltman, whatever you want to call them. Like, they were so good. Go back and watch that match from King of the Ring 94, Owen versus 1-2-3 Kid. A perfect example of a 5-minute match when you want to bitch next time. Then you only got 5 minutes, including my entrances. Okay, go watch this match, fucker, and then feel stupid afterwards because you just saw two pros that knew what they had to do in 5 minutes because it's their fucking job. Like, and they knew it, and like it's good. So Owen to me is that, and yeah, it sucked and whatever. I cried. I don't care. It's
all good.
I did when it happened, you know, because I was just like, no way, like, this is dumb. You know, like, this is just really dumb. And I'm not saying I was more advanced than other people who heard the news and didn't cry or whatever. It was just my guttural reaction. When I heard that on my answer machine, I heard the message and I was like, no. Like, and I remember just getting super, like, watery-eyed and being like, no, like, this can't be right. This is fucking stupid. If it's a work, you're crossing the line. That's more than pro wrestling should be, right? But then I was like, it can't be. And I started reading shit, you know, online and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like, he died. He fucking died.
He's
like,
really gone.
Yeah, he's gone. Like, so ridiculous.
Yeah. And, you know, hopefully what'll come of it when we talk about this in later terms. And we always talk about Owen and the underrated moments and the great ribs and the great matches. So I know this is the unfortunate way that this podcast has to end, but I hope that everybody starts to look at that Owen Hart legacy and look at that talent realm and look at what he did for wrestling before his death. I mean, it's very tragic. He'd probably still be having impact on it today. But one thing you have to understand is that Owen does have impact on wrestling today. Anything that's high flying, anything that is great mechanic working, you know,
in 89 he was doing shit.
He was doing this stuff.
He saw in Mexico and Japan and in Canada, and he brought it as a blue blazer in 89. He was just trying it. And in a federation, that was all big boys and, you know, cartoon characters, and he was trying it. He tried it, and it's cool to watch. It was
phenomenal. It was successful. He was an American trendsetter. So, you know, with that, guys, you can reach us at Instagram at O.W.P 2019, SoundCloud at Our Wrestling Podcast, YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, or, like I said, do the easy thing. Download WrestlePost app at no charge to you, and join us along with other great podcasts of today. This is the O.W.P. signing off. Have a good one, guys.
Then there's Bad News Brown, the Brooklyn Brawl, with all their dirty street fighting tactics, and they use that to win. Then there's guys like Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. You think you're the greatest wrestler in the world. Well, Mr. Perfect, you step in the ring with the blue blazer and let me show you what great wrestling is all about. Because each and every one of you guys have your own styles, but I too have my own unique style, and I use that acrobatic maneuver to beat you guys 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, and that's my strategy, to beat you guys with my great wrestling acrobatics, and that's what's going to get me to the top of the World Wrestling Federation. So all you big, tough, arrogant, nasty wrestlers, come on, I'm ready for you in the ring.
The Blue Blaze.